Okay, we're in the Maimon of Vayuchai Sarah, which asked a few questions about the story of Sarah, the way the Zohar understands it, that while Chava came into the world, attempted to do something, but didn't work out. She came down, got entangled with the snake. Noach tried to fix it, but he ended up getting drunk. And Sarah went down and came up again. She made it, she did it, she succeeded in whatever this project was that Chava and Noach did not succeed. And so about her it says in the Zohar that she lived a higher level of life and her life was hers. What does that mean? What was she trying to do? And how is this relevant to us? Because everything that our forefathers and foremothers did was a prediction, like a precursor, and more than that, it was a empowerment for the children. So we need to learn, what does Sarah's achievement mean to us? So to understand this, we're going to continue in Gimel on Kuf Mem Zayin. So the main point is this: as the Rebbe Rashab, whose birthday was on Mar Cheshvan, the day that this Maimer was said, the Rebbe Rashab said in the Maimer with the same Dibra Maschil, starting with the same verse of Vayuchai Sarah, D'avodas Hashem tzricha liyos b'simcha. Dafka. He says that the service of Hashem, when we serve Hashem, when we daven, when we learn, when we do mitzvahs, when we're working on our midas, all of the avodas Hashem we do has to be done with simcha, with joy. Dafka, with joy. Meaning, it's an essential part of avodas Hashem, without which our avodah is incomplete. We must serve Hashem with simcha, with joy. As it says in the pasuk, we quoted in our davening, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Serve Hashem with joy. It's not enough to serve Hashem, it's not enough to do mitzvahs, you have to do it with joy, with happiness. How essential is joy to avodas Hashem? He explains, to the point where the joy that we have in avodas Hashem is a fundamental principle, an absolute baseline necessity.
Is there a previous place where it says that, or is Tehillim, is that the original source?
Well, we're going to find a pasuk in the Torah as well, which he's going to quote soon. But the most direct statement, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, a command, serve Hashem with joy. That is like the clearest statement of it. From David Melech in Tehillim, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Which means that the mitzvah we do has to be done with joy, with enthusiasm, with positivity, with warmth. Mitzvahs have to be done with joy. So while Tehillim is the clearest statement of that, where it's actually said as a command, serve Hashem with joy, but we see in the Torah as well, Kidur Pirush Arizal V'huva B'Tanya, as is known, the Arizal's interpretation that is quoted in Tanya, on the pasuk in the Torah, in Parshas Kisavai, Tachas Hashem lo yavadas Hashem alekach b'simcha. It lists there the various curses that will come upon the Jewish people. And why do the curses come? Because you didn't serve Hashem with joy. So the Arizal explained that as meaning the simplest meaning of the pasuk, that because you didn't serve Hashem with joy, meaning the curses are coming not because you didn't serve Hashem. Maybe you did serve Hashem, but if you don't serve Hashem with joy, so then that's not mitzvahs, and so the curses come. Ad Kadei Kach, that's the extent of the avodas Hashem b'simcha, that simcha is so necessary for serving Hashem that even if you did do the mitzvahs, but if it wasn't with joy, that's not considered serving Hashem. So you didn't do it. That's how the Arizal interprets how else could you interpret the pasuk? The verse says, the curse has come to you because you didn't serve Hashem with joy. Comes the Arizal and says, what that means is, because you didn't serve Hashem with joy, even if you would have served Hashem. How else could you explain the pasuk? So one way that it could have been explained, and it has been explained by other Mefarshim, is that you were joyous in not serving Hashem. You were happy not to serve Hashem. You're happy in not serving Hashem. That's why the curses come. But the Rizal says, no. What it means is, maybe you did serve Hashem, maybe you did mitzvahs, but you did it begrudgingly, reluctantly, out of habit, and wrote in a bad mood.
Used to be a Rizal again.
Rabbi Yitzchak Luria is the Rizal. He was the great Mekubal, the Kabbalist from Tzfas, the Ari.
Oh.
So that's how he interprets. Interestingly, by the way, in Rambam, in Mishnah Torah, he interprets it the same way.
Mm.
But it's often quoted in the name of the Arizal. So now we've got the Tehillim that says Ivdas Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy. But from there, you just know that it's a good thing to serve Hashem with joy. From the Arizal, it takes it a step further and says it's not just a good thing; it's an essential thing. If you don't serve Hashem with joy, so then you're not serving Hashem. The curses can come as a result of that. It's like you didn't do the mitzvahs. This is a Torah and it says in Torah of the Alter Rebbe, that the Arizal himself, the fact that he merited to extremely high levels of Ruach HaKodesh, of divine inspiration, where secrets of Torah were revealed to him, Eliyahu Navi visited him, he could see neshamas and he could see realities that the average person can't see. The fact that the Arizal merited that, reached that, was all because of his joy with which he did his mitzvahs. Because he did mitzvahs with such joy, that took him to this level of Ruach HaKodesh. Which, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that that's one of the means to get to Ruach HaKodesh, is doing a mitzvah with joy. It says here, it wasn't because he fasted all day, so he reached Ruach HaKodesh. It wasn't because he meditated all day, it was because he did mitzvahs with joy. You can imagine what joy we're talking about. And Reb Chaim Vital, his student, would describe the immense joy and excitement that he would have when he did a mitzvah that was palpable, was visible. Why would that bring you to Ruach HaKodesh? Why would doing a mitzvah with simcha bring you to Ruach HaKodesh? I don't know. But I know that it says about simcha, that simcha peretz gedar, that simcha has the power to break down barriers, to knock walls down, to knock out limitations. So when a person is in a deep state of simcha, some of the limitations that would otherwise hold us down fall away. And so maybe the limitations of the mind, that we see only that which is rational and that which the eyes can perceive and the brain can understand, that's one of the limitations that is broken down through simcha, through awesome deep simcha, which like the Arizal had.
Do you think there's different ways of reaching Ruach HaKodesh? I think there's other examples given, so it must be maybe...
Yeah, sure. This is about the Arizal. This is how the Arizal reached it. I mean, the Mishnah says that you have to go through Tahara and Precious and all these different levels. There's a Brisa at least that says that. And there are other methods of Ruach HaKodesh. I believe the Baal Shem Tov said that he reached it through Rov Tfilos, through toveling in the mikveh a lot. A high level of purity in the mikveh. So yeah, there are other means, but the Arizal specifically, who reached one of the highest levels of Ruach HaKodesh that we've seen in our history, he reached it through Simcha Shel Mitzvah. So that's how powerful the Simcha of a mitzvah can be. And the Rebbe adds in brackets that you might think, okay, that's nice, that's the Arizal. I mean, what's that to do with us? When we're not even close to Ruach HaKodesh. But since this is a story that is told in Torah, in the oral Torah, the Alter Rebbe's book explaining the Torah, which is a part of oral Torah, any story that is told in Torah is Hora, is instruction, is a practical instruction. So therefore any story, no matter how way out it may seem, is an instruction to us that we should emulate it. So maybe we're not going to reach the level of Ruach HaKodesh of the Arizal, but if the Alter Rebbe bothered to tell us about the Arizal and how he reached his Ruach HaKodesh, that's because it is relevant to us on our level. Meaning the Simcha Shel Mitzvah that we can reach will also expand our horizons and broaden us on our level at least. So it's relevant to us in that way. And it's relevant to every Jew. So we've established Ivdos Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy, says in Tehillim. The Torah says that the curses come through not serving Hashem with doing the mitzvahs with simcha. It's a fundamental lack in the mitzvahs. The Arizal reached his levels of Ruach HaKodesh through simcha, and we're told that because that's relevant to us as well. So why is it? The kasher avodah hi b'simcha, az avodah b'shleimus. Because only when the avodah and our service of Hashem is done with joy, can we say that the avodah, our service of Hashem, is complete. We're doing it properly. Meaning, if you do a mitzvah without joy, it's still a mitzvah. You're still yotze the mitzvah. You put on tefillin this morning, you weren't so joyous about it, you just did it. Okay, you did the mitzvah. We're not going to tell you, okay, you've got to do it again. You didn't do anything. You say brachas, you do benching. You've done a mitzvah. You light your candles, you put up your mezuzah, you shake your little. It's a mitzvah without joy, but it's not complete mitzvah. It's an incomplete mitzvah when it's done without joy. And lest you say that, well, that's not such a big deal, is it? That it's a mitzvah still, so it's incomplete. We're not perfect. We didn't do a mitzvah perfectly. So if I did a mitzvah and I didn't do it with joy, but I did it. At least I did it. Like, is it such a big deal if I didn't do a complete, absolute, perfect mitzvah? So we'll see that we have to take this seriously. In quite a long parenthesis here, there are square brackets. It starts there on the 7th line. Only when you do a mitzvah completely does the world become complete. The world itself is incomplete without mitzvahs. And without a complete mitzvah, the world is still incomplete. We complete the world by doing our mitzvahs. As the Rebbe is now going to explain, how mitzvahs are not just a nice addition to the world. It's not just bringing some meaning and purpose or elevating the world. It's giving the world its completeness. The world is missing something essential without mitzvahs. How so? We know that the purpose of creation was for the Jewish people who are called Reishis. This Rashi quotes from the Medrash on the very first pasuk of the Torah, Bereishis bara Elokim, es hashamayim es haaretz, which we translate as in the beginning Hashem created the heaven and the earth. But really, Bereishis means for Reishis, for the beginning Hashem created heaven and earth. Which, what does the beginning mean? Reishis, the word Reishis there refers to the Jewish people, as the Medrash there quotes another verse that calls the Jewish people Reishis Tfosai, the beginning of Hashem's crop. The first thing Hashem thought of when in the system and in the process of creation was the Jewish people. The Reishis, the real beginning of everything, the thing that inspired, that motivated Hashem to create the world, was he wanted a relationship with puny beings, which is us, the Jewish people. That was the first impetus in creating the world. So therefore, Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim va'aretz, because of the first thing that inspired Hashem to create the world was the Jewish people. So it's not that he created the world and then said, okay, now I'm going to find a nation to be mine. It's that he wanted the relationship with us, so he created the world. That's the whole basis, foundation, and inspiration of creation. Now, or Pirush Bishvil Yisrael. Now, when we say that Hashem created the world for the Jewish people, what does that mean? Does that mean that Hashem created the world to serve us, that we should enjoy it, that he's giving us a gift? What does it mean that he's created the world for us, for the Jewish people? Hu bishvil ha'avodah Yisrael. What it means is for the avodah, for the spiritual work that the Jewish people will do. It's not merely our existence that he wants. It's the relationship with him that he wants, and that's our avodah, our spiritual work. So when it says that Hashem created the world for the Jewish people, it doesn't mean that the world is like our stage, just to be ours, to enjoy. That's not what it means. It means that he created the world because he wants the Jewish people, he wants our avodah, he wants our relationship with him, our serving him. So then why didn't it say that? Why does the Medrash say that Hashem created the world for the Jewish people? It should say Hashem created the world for the service of Hashem that the Jewish people do. Why does it say just for Yisrael? So the Rebbe says in the brackets, inside the brackets, Shezeu Ikur Mitziyusam, because the real identity of the Jewish people is our service of Hashem. That's what we are. That's our very existence in the world. That's our purpose and existence, and that's our identity. K'mayim Razal, as our sages say, Ani lo nivresi elu l'sham eskoni. The sages say, I was only created to serve my Creator. That's my entire purpose. So the Jews' very identity is that we're serving Hashem, that we're here to bring Hashem's light into the world. That's our central identity. That's not peripheral, that's not secondary, it's not a part of our lives, that is our lives, that's what we are. So therefore when it says that the creation was for the Jewish people, it means, well, what's the Jewish people? Serving Hashem, that's our identity. So what's Hashem's reason for creating the world? Our service of Hashem, the Jewish people serving Him. After the brackets, Hainu. What does it mean that Hashem created the world for the Jewish people to serve Him? What that means is that when the Jewish people serve Hashem, the world has meaning. The world has purpose. The world is fulfilling what it's here for. It's complete. It's not that our mitzvahs bring an additional layer to the world, add something nice to the world. It's that our mitzvahs, our serving Hashem, that's why the world was created in the first place. So the world is not complete. It lacks any meaning, any purpose, without that serving Hashem, without the revelation that we create. Now, the Rebbe now qualifies this statement and says, well, hang on a minute, what we've said now is that the world is incomplete without us serving Hashem. The implication is that before we serve Him, there is this incomplete world. After we serve Him, then the world has completeness. So this seems to contradict certain statements of our sages. Dahagam, see the last word on the line, halfway down the page, Dahagam. Dahagam she'olam al maloy nivra. Even though it says very clearly in the Medrash that the world was created full, complete, finished. This statement of the Medrash is referring to creation, that when Hashem created the world, He didn't create an infantile world that then had to grow up. He created a completed world. So He created trees, not seeds. He created fully fledged animals, not baby animals or eggs. Adam and Chava were created as 20-year-olds, fully grown, fully developed 20-year-olds. They weren't babies. So the the world was created full, complete, ready, done. That is in the physical sense, but also the sense of that statement is that the world was a completed world. And yet now we're saying that without Avodas Hashem, without the Jewish people serving Hashem, the world is incomplete. Only when we serve Hashem is the world complete. But the world was created complete, was it not? Well, bifrat, and especially when we consider al pi hayadua, when we consider the statement that is brought in the Kabbalistic works, shemahatamim al briyasa olam hu lifi sha'alu b'ritzoni yisbarach lehetiv lebruav, that one of the reasons that is brought in Kabbalah as to why Hashem created the world. Well, what was He thinking? Why does He want to create the world? One of the reasons brought is because Hashem decided He wants to bestow goodness. He wants to give goodness. Sheteva tov lehetiv, because a good being wants to give good. Hashem is good, so therefore He wanted to share that goodness. Right. So He created a world to bestow goodness. Where's that statement from? He brings here Eitz Chaim from the Arizal. Teva Tov Lehetiv also is quoted in the name of the Arizal and found in other Kabbalahs from Emek HaMelech, Shemer Munim, several older Kabbalistic works. That Hashem is good, He's a good being. The nature of a good is to bestow good. Like a good person, if we could use a metaphor in the human realm, a good person, what makes a good person? Somebody who shares and who gives and who is generous. So Hashem is innately good, so He wanted to share that goodness. So He created a world to share goodness, to give goodness. lehetiv lebruav, which is, by the way, an important thing to remember, that the world is here for Hashem to share goodness. That we're not here to suffer, we're here because Hashem wants to bestow goodness upon us. So, if that's the case, if this is indeed true, that one of the reasons why Hashem created the world was to bestow goodness upon others, upon His creations, that must mean that the world is a finished product, is ready to go. If the world's purpose is to bestow goodness, so then it must be good already. It must be a ready to go product that we can receive. Not a unredeemed world that we need to fix. How is that giving goodness? If let's say, going again to a human being is a good person, so they want to share good. So they give a gift. A nice person gives a gift. But surely that gift is going to be a usable, practical gift ready to go. If you're really nice. You're not going to give a half-baked gift. You give a complete gift. You don't invite somebody to your house and say, here, I would like to give you a meal. There's the kitchen. Get to work, That's...
Unless in elevating it, the recipient benefits. It elevates him.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, I guess, disciplining children and being tough, but actually in the end, it's for the benefit.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's...
So, good. So unless we somehow say that leaving an unfinished product and giving it to the recipient to finish is adding to the goodness, is making it even better. Right. So even though we're saying that Hashem created the world because He's good and He wants to bestow goodness, and that would imply that the world is a ready-made product ready to enjoy, a complete world that is good already. However, says the Rebbe, this concept that Hashem wants to bestow goodness upon His creations, that's actually one of the reasons why Hashem wanted the creation to be for the sake of the Jewish people and the Torah, that we, through Torah, should serve Him and complete the world. Because real complete goodness is only given to us when we achieve that goodness, when we contribute to it through our avodah. That when the Jewish people, through our work, through our toil, through our effort in serving Hashem, we add to the completeness of the world. A greater level of completeness than the world was on its own as it was created. So in other words, Hashem did create the world was created complete. That's what we said before. It's a complete world, but complete itself is relative. There's levels of completeness. It's a complete world, meaning all the ingredients are there, all the elements are there, everything that's needed is there. But it's not a perfected world. It's not a finished product. It has more that needs to be done. And through our avodas Hashem, we take it to a higher level of completeness, and that itself is a part of Teva HaTov L'Heitiv. The Rebbe explains in a different place, in a very deep way, what this means. That when we say that Hashem is good, and therefore He wants to give good. So what is good? Hashem is good. Hashem is the definition of goodness. When we say He wants to give good, what is that goodness that He wants to give? Himself. He is goodness. What He wants to share is Himself. How does He share Himself? How can He share Himself with us? If we are merely a recipient of His good, so then that's not fully sharing Himself. He wants us to feel what it's like to be a creator. That's how He shares Himself. When we feel what it's like to be a creator, that we actually achieved something, we did something, we created, we invented, we moved the world to a higher place on our own, that's when we actually feel what it's like to be Hashem. And so therefore He created a world that needs to be elevated, that needs to be completed through our avoda, with free choice, with our own initiative. Because by doing that, we actually feel what it's like to be a creator. And this is why it's so very deep in the human psyche and the human need to create, to make, to invent, and to move the world, to do something. The person sits around and says, what have I done with my life? Because there's a deep need to do that. Because this is what we're in the world to do. And when we do something, when we create something, and this doesn't mean invent a new technology or a cure to some disease, that's included in it, but that's not necessarily it. When we generate goodness in the world through our own efforts and our own free choice and our avodas Hashem, that is tasting what it's like to be a creator. And the very deep satisfaction and that brings is because this is the purpose of our existence, to further the world.
And that's hinted at like in Bereshit, it says Na'aseh Adam.
Na'aseh Adam, which one of the explanations is you and I, that you and I, let's create you together. Yeah, correct. You going to say
Is all
something?
creation physical or is it mental as well?
All levels is creation. Not just physical. Emotional, spiritual. So therefore, Tava Tov Lahativ, if Hashem is really good, so then He doesn't give us a world that is finished, served to us on a silver platter, because that actually wouldn't be total good. Like you said before about a child, that if a parent serves everything to the child, gives them everything they need, that's not actually good. That's called spoiling the child, because the child is not given any initiative, any ability to earn their own merits. So that's actually not good. And generally speaking, in all our relationships, by constantly giving and not allowing room for the other person to make effort, to do their bit, you're not really giving. To give the opportunity to give is also giving, which means by not giving, you're giving. So Hashem giving an incomplete world that we need to finish through our avodah, that is real giving. That's Teva Tov Lahativ, that's Hashem's goodness, wanting us to experience His goodness by being creators ourselves. Omekiven, the last word on the line, on the page, and then we go to the next page. Omekiven sheshleimus avodah hi kasher hi b'simcha. Now, because we established that this world was created for us to serve Hashem. By us serving Him, what does it mean serving Him? Bringing His holiness into the world through our efforts, making the world better and improving it. That's the whole reason why the world was created. The whole purpose of creation was that. And because we established earlier that serving Hashem must be with joy, if you serve Hashem without joy, there's something missing in the service of Hashem. It's an incomplete avodas Hashem. So that means that when you serve Hashem with joy, it's not only the service of Hashem that is being completed, but it is creation that is being completed. Because creation is dependent on your service of Hashem. The whole point of creation was for you to serve Him, to elevate the world to a higher place. But that serving Hashem, an essential ingredient of it is joy. If you're doing mitzvahs, but you're not doing it with joy, it's an incomplete mitzvah. That's an incomplete world. The world is not being completed yet. But when you're doing a mitzvah with joy, you're completing the world. The world is being fulfilled. It's reaching its purpose. Because the completeness of the world is all through the service of the Jewish people, our mitzvahs and our spiritual work. And our spiritual work must be done with joy to be complete. So the Rebbe here has just magnified what perhaps before we open this mimer, if we'd say, so doing mitzvahs with joy, what place does that have? We would maybe say that it is an added extra. It improves the mitzvah. Doing it with joy improves the mitzvah, makes it a better mitzvah. You can do a mitzvah, in a bad mood, it's still a mitzvah. But if you do it with a good, joyous disposition, so then that makes it a nicer, more pleasant mitzvah. So we said, no. Doing a mitzvah without joy is not a complete mitzvah. It's not just an accessory to the mitzvah, it's an essential element of the mitzvah. It has to be done with joy. And not only that, but it's not just the mitzvah that's missing, it's the whole world and the whole universe and the whole creation that's missing, because the whole point of the creation is mitzvahs, is avodas Hashem, and avodas Hashem without simcha is incomplete, so therefore the world is incomplete without joy.
So you're saying that the point of the mitzvah is that we should be happy about fixing this world?
The happiness is in the mitzvah. The happiness is that we have a mitzvah, ability to be close to Hashem, to draw down Hashem. The world was created to make that possible.
But you're saying that he made it, so to say, quote unquote, incomplete in a way that we should complete it, so we should feel accomplished. So is that the simcha that I was talking about?
The accomplishment of completing the world.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah, well,
The same simcha.
in a way, that the teva hativ is that we should be contributing something. What are we contributing? The completeness of the world. An incomplete world without us, yeah.
Is there different levels of joy, like doing it with shema, or that's another level if you're doing it, and then there's also like how, just in terms of actual joy itself, like you could be dancing to a mitzvah, or you just subconsciously thinking you're happy, or the fact that you're actually doing it shows that you enjoy it. I don't know. Is there different levels as
Yes,
well?
yes, and the Maimar is going to go through different levels of simcha, but on the basic level, without complicating it, it means that you're happy in what you're doing, and that happiness, true happiness, will be manifest somehow. It has to be expressed somehow. So, like you can see somebody who, let's say, looks miserable, but no, I'm very happy. Okay, it's possible there's a certain internal happiness that there could be, but because simcha peretz geder, simcha breaks down barriers, so therefore it needs to be expressed somehow. And we know ourselves that when we're not in a state of simcha, we're more lethargic, we're more inward and within ourselves, and there's a certain heaviness and darkness about us that is expressed on our face and expressed in the way we move, the way we talk, and the tone of voice, everything. Whereas when we're in a state of simcha and joy, so then we're moving, we're happy. It's also infectious. You feel it when you're in the presence of a person of joy. You feel more joyous, and the opposite as well. So here it's saying that simcha is an essential part of a mitzvah, and so that has to be expressed in the way you do the mitzvah. So he explains it a little bit more in the next few lines, just after the brackets. Not only is avodah complete when you do it b'simcha, with joy, but in actual fact, we're taking it even further now. Simcha in avodas Hashem is a must in avodas Hashem. It's not just it's not complete now. The Rebbe is going to say an even more extreme statement, that it's questionable whether it's fulfilling its purpose at all if you're not doing it b'simcha. It's questionable whether you can call it avodas Hashem, serving Hashem, if it's not done b'simcha. It's a hechrach.
How can you do certain mitzvahs like avelos, right, in a state of...
That's a good question. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's a very good question. Let's just get his idea, and then we'll go back to that. Shalochein kasher chaser hasimcha b'avodas Hashem magir al ze oynish chas v'shalom. Because we said earlier from Arizal, quoting the pasuk in the Torah, that tachas asher lo yavadas Hashem, that because you didn't serve Hashem with simcha, you're getting the curses. What does that mean? You did a mitzvah, but you didn't do it with joy. So what do we say? You get punished for that. You get punished for doing a mitzvah? Obviously, what that's saying is a mitzvah without joy is not a mitzvah. There has to be joy in the mitzvah for it to be a mitzvah. Because you didn't serve Hashem with joy, the curses are coming upon you. How can we say that now that's really an extreme statement? We're saying that what you're doing is actually bad if there's no joy in your mitzvah. Because the whole point of Avodas Hashem is to draw down a revelation of Hashem down here in this world. That's what we're doing through serving Hashem, is to make Hashem revealed in the world. And that happens through joy. Okay, hang on. This is new. This is a new idea. You know, always in these Maimarim, there's no exclamation marks or like big bold, statements. So it just all looks like the same font. But sometimes it says something like what? It just said here that a mitzvah without joy, not only is it an incomplete mitzvah, not such a perfect mitzvah, you get punished for it. Like, it's not serving Hashem. Why? Because the words were, the whole point of service Hashem is to reveal Hashem in the world. And that's done through simcha. What does that mean? I think what it means is that if I do a mitzvah, but I do it begrudgingly, in a bad mood, Hashem is not revealed in that. I've done the mitzvah, so I've done the Ratzon Hashem. We can't say there's no mitzvah there. But as far as revelation, what's expressed in the world, it's like there's me and there's the mitzvah and we're not connecting. Because if we would be connecting, I would be joyous with the unbelievable privilege I have to do the will of Hashem and bring Hashem's light into the world. So if I'm not a keli, if I'm not a vessel, I'm not an expression of what the mitzvah is, so then the mitzvah hasn't revealed Hashem in the world. Whereas when I do a mitzvah b'simcha, with joy, then visibly, palpably, here in this world, you're seeing an expression of the divine. So, if the point of mitzvahs is Gilui Elokus, is revealing Hashem in the world, we usually understand Gilui Elokus, revealing Hashem in the world, in very abstract terms. That what that means is, I've done a mitzvah, so I did the Ratzon Hashem, I put on tefillin. This is what Hashem wanted. So I've brought a divine light into the world. We understand that as being a bit sort of symbolic, or invisible. There's like lights and energies and blessings coming into the world. You can't see it, but that's because it's divine. We don't see these things, And that's true on one level. That is true. But here the Rebbe is taking it a step further and saying, Gilui Elokus means revealing Hashem in this world, in the world down here, in our here and now world. How would that be? How would there be a Gilui Elokus in the world when you do a mitzvah? If that is really true, you're really doing a mitzvah, which means you're really doing the Ratzon Hashem, that Hashem's will is being expressed through you, that should be visible in the joy on your face, in the energy that you put into that mitzvah. That's a Gilui Elokus. That's a revelation of Hashem. Without that, if you're reluctant in doing the mitzvah, or slothy, or lazy about it, or not really into it, there's no revelation there. So then, that's not a mitzvah. Which is pretty intense statement. And all the way along here, by the way, it's saying the simcha is not to do with your mood. Well, obviously, we're not saying wait till you're in a happy mood to do a mitzvah, because otherwise it's not a mitzvah. So make sure you're in a happy mood. Your mood, we're ignoring your mood. You just have to be happy. Like, it's not talking about what's going on in your life or what's happening. It's saying this is the demeanor that you have to, it's part of your avodah. Part of avodah is to be besimcha. It doesn't have to be for a reason. It's not saying check your messages and find some good news and then you'll be happy. No, even if there's not good news, the simcha is an essential element. Now, you asked a very good question. Sometimes there are circumstances of sadness, of tragedy, of pain in the world. So we're supposed to ignore them and just laugh it off. Sometimes Torah itself commands you to mourn. If Chas v'Shalom somebody's passed away, somebody has to sit shiva on Tisha B'Av, and the 3 weeks, and we have times when you're supposed to be sad. So how does Ivdus Hashem B'Simcha apply there? So I think that simcha doesn't necessarily have to mean light-headedness, giggling, or that type of expression. Simcha means being alive and being connected to the moment. Simcha is not always a smile, but it means being totally present and with it. You can mourn, but in a way that you're alive and you're connected to that experience and you're feeling it. You can be at a birthday party dancing and you're not really connected to it. Simcha means being totally alive and with it. And that includes sometimes mourning and feeling. A person who is depressed, God forbid, is not feeling anything. Depression is non-feeling, is being numb. They don't feel joy, they don't feel the sadness, they feel numb. Whereas a person who's besimcha can feel real pain and experience that pain fully, but they're fully in it. They're alive in it. And that's still simcha. That's still called simcha. Like Tanya differentiates between atzvus and merirus, two things that we would generally translate as sadness. But there's a sadness that is being alive and sad, and there's a sadness that is being dead. A deadened sadness is where you don't actually feel anything. So you're stuck in yourself and you're numb and you're cold, your heart is turned to stone. That is bad and always bad. But a sense of merurus, which means a bitterness, a sadness, a disappointment, feeling pain, that's a good thing, that's being alive. And that's not contradictory to simcha. So what we've seen is that simcha is not just an additional accessory to service Hashem, it's essential to service Hashem. It's the whole point of creation is fulfilled through Avodas Hashem, and Avodas Hashem is only fulfilled through simcha. And not only that, but a mitzvah is not really fully a mitzvah if it's not done with simcha, with some level of joy, of presence, of feeling, of energy, of liveliness. So let's just do that final paragraph in the middle of the page. But at the same time, it says Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, but also it says Ivdus Hashem b'yira. There's also a verse that says serve Hashem with awe, fear, trepidation. That doesn't sound like simcha. It sounds like the opposite. Being joyous is very different to being awestruck. The opposite, no? But then that very pasuk, again in Tehillim, that says serve Hashem with fear, concludes and says v'gilu birada, be joyous in trembling. Gila is a word of joy. Celebrate, be celebratory, be joyous in your trembling. That even yira has to be b'simcha. Even your awe has to be joyous. So how do you do that? How do you be in a state of awe and joyous as well? The thing is like this, that when simcha is b'murgash, when simcha is felt, is experienced, when the simcha is a little bit egotistical, it's my simcha that I'm experiencing and feeling, that could lead to a bit self-centeredness. When the simcha is about the feeling, is about the high, that's when there's a danger that simcha can be just about pleasure, feeling good. And that can lead to several negative things. Because once you're hedonistic, once you're in it for the high, for your feeling, once you're just looking for another boost of energy and high, so then that can lead to all types of bad stuff. So therefore the Torah balances it by telling us you have to serve Hashem with fear, and your joy has to be with trembling, So that we should reach a level of simcha that's not murgish, that's not felt, that's not egotistical, but a simcha that goes hand in hand with self-nullification and humility. Like it says in the pasuk, that the humble find joy in Hashem. The humble people, specifically humility, is what brings joy. That joy goes hand in hand with bittul, with self-nullification, and with humility. Because without that, there's a risk that the joy can become addictive, that can become a self-serving thing, a pleasure-seeking thing, and that can lead to all types of problems. Whereas a simcha that is with bittul is a healthy simcha. Now it seems that simcha and bittul are two exact opposites. To be joyous is expressing myself. Bittul is putting myself aside completely. Nullification. I'm invisible. I'm not there. And yet here the Rebbe is implying that no, ultimate simcha comes alongside bittul and is along with bittul. The humble are truly joyous. How that is possible, the Maimar will continue to explain as we continue. Stop there.
Wait, what's the context of Tach